Also the founder of Suklai LLC, an investment management firm based in Princeton, New Jersey. Before founding Suklai Capital in 2019, I spent more than a decade on Wall Street working for large banks in New York and London. I have been an active supporter of many social impact initiatives in education and health in several states in India, including Bihar and Jharkhand. I hold a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering from IIT Bombay and a master's of financial mathematics from NC State. My bio, as well as the bios of all the speakers, will be projected on the screen. In the interest of time, only brief introductions would be made. We request you to refer to our event page on the Wheels website for more details on the distinguished speakers. Wheels is an initiative of Pan IIT and was started in 2006 and formally incorporated as a nonprofit both in USA and in India. Its mission is to improve the lives in rural India by technology-enabled solutions. Where solutions do not exist, we engage our IITs and other similar institutions for further innovation towards self-sustainable and scalable solutions. We work collaboratively with proven on-the-ground NGO and other partners, such as those speaking today. Our projects cover 6 areas as the name suggests: water, health, education, energy, livelihood, and sustainability. Some examples of exciting projects, each with scaling ramp to millions of people, like underground spring rejuvenation in Himachal Pradesh, rural telemedicine centers providing quality and affordable care, newborn and mother nutritional health, affordable sanitary pads for rural girls and women, spoken tutorials to bring IT skills to masses, and Smart Village initiative in Aravali. A brief introduction to Wheels activities was presented prior to the start of this event and will also run at the conclusion. Wheels is a volunteer organization and depends on the generosity of many donors who share our vision of impacting 20% of India's rural and semi-urban population by 2030. You can also get additional information on our website, www.wheelsglobal.org. Today's event is a part of our series of Wheels Council forums, where prominent persons like our speakers today share their unique and inspiring perspective on a variety of subjects. Today's topic focuses on education domain, titling Solving Complex Education Challenges for Rural and Underserved Millions at Scale, from Primary Education to Jobs, and will spotlight some of the most compelling innovations and scalable models from the IIT ecosystem as well as our partners. These innovative solutions bring the power of technology and business models coupled with original thinking, simply asking different questions and come up with very noble ways to solve these tough challenges that our vast underserved communities face. Now, a quick disclaimer. All views expressed by the speakers in this webinar are their own and do not reflect, nor endorsed by Wheels Global Foundation or its board or its members. Now, some housekeeping messages. All attendees are on the mute-only mode for this webinar. You may ask questions to the speakers by entering into the Q&A box. You can also chat with one of us by raising your hand or typing your request in the chat box. A recording of this event will be available on our website and on YouTube. Questions from the audience will be curated and channeled to the speakers. Now, it's my distinct honor to introduce our moderator, Ratan Agrawal, who serves on Wheels board as president and moderating the event today. Apart from Wheels, he's also the co-founder and managing partner of Carbon Group Global, a global sustainability solution holding company, creating rapid replications of proven models with market-based models in education and learning, women's empowerment, resources, health, and economic development. Ratan received his MBA from Wharton School and master's in structural engineering from IIT Bombay. Over to you, Ratan.
Thank you, Nitesh. And good morning to those in US, and good evening to those in India, and afternoon to those joining from UK or Europe. As Nitesh said, this is our first webinar showcasing innovations from Wheels partners in education, particularly, as well as alumni who are dedicating their lives to solve the complex problems facing our rural, tribal, and underserved communities. And today you'll be hearing from 5 of those and see how they are applying their passion and dedication, innovation, creativity to create highly scalable models. With that, let me introduce our first panelist, Varun Shrivastava. Varun is a social activist from Delhi who is working for the upliftment of underprivileged street children, children who are otherwise called begging on the street. He's an IIT Kharagpur alumni and has worked as a senior manager at a power sector company, NTPC. He's the founder of Upay, which is essentially underprivileged youth, underprivileged advancement for youth that brings street children into mainstream and has already impacted lives of more than 1.2 lakhs footpath and rural kids through 46 educations and skills development centers across the country in cities like Nagpur, Delhi, Noida, Gurgaon, Bangalore, Kolkata, and Garo Hills in Meghalaya. He's also the founder of Sabka Samman, an e-commerce non-profit portal which provides online marketplace to poor artisans. He has inspired hundreds of youth from different backgrounds like doctors, engineers, college students, and teachers to take up the cause of the street children and give them a motto through Reach and Teach program. He's trying to replace begging bowls in the hands of street children by books so they can have equally fair chance in life. With that, let me invite Varun to share about Upay. Varun, would love to see if you can share with the audience what inspired you to work with the kids on footpath, probably the hardest segment, and what makes Upay unique and a scalable solution.
Thank you,
Welcome.
Ratan sir. Thank you, Ratan sir, for having me. On behalf of Upay, I welcome you all. Now, about the motivation, why actually when I started Upay, the motivation was that I also come from the rural area, and my journey started post 10th. I joined ITI. Those who don't know about ITI, ITI is in India is a diploma course to become a technician, and destiny took me to IIT Kharagpur, the one of the finance engineering institute in India. So that roller coaster ride from ITI to IIT, that was the main motivation, that I wanted to work for the students who wants to dream big, and those who are living in rural areas but don't have access to the resources. So that is how I started Upay. But coming back to street children, I think we at Upay started working for them in 2014. And frankly speaking, Ratan sir, I don't, from that date, I don't need any motivation to work for the children. Because the moment I step out of my house, the problem is so visible, it is out there. The moment you're going to office, you'll find hundreds of children either banging your car doors, asking for some money. You'll find them working at dhaba or restaurant as a child labor, or you will find them in the morning or evening walk doing some rag picking activities. Recently, I was at one of the street hawkers' place and I was having my lunch. And there is a small 7 years of child, and he was rolling paratha. He was so small that he was not able to reach to that cart. So he was sitting on that handle which they used to pull that cart. And we 30 odd people were there and he making paratha continuously. And when I see, I think this is not some unique sight. Those who are staying in India, you might have encountered this n number of times, and you call them chotu or whatever you call them, but we became used to of it. So if you are a little sympathetic or empathic, I don't think any motivation that you really want to work for the children. You feel that it is not their fault and they deserve a better childhood. So we at Upay, we thought that what is the problem, how we can make their childhood better. So we realized that yes, there are a number of issues which they are facing, but the only solution is the education. Through education, we can bring the change. But there were government initiatives through Right to Education. They are providing free of cost education with free clothing and food. Despite of that, the children, they are not going to these government schools. So we realized that the major problem is that these children, they are the sole bread and butter earner for their family. So Government through schools are providing facilities to these children only, but they need to take care of their entire family, so they cannot go to these schools. Like it is like when someone tells us during our office hours that can you go to yoga classes, we'll say no, I have to be there in my office, I can't go to yoga classes. So that was the situation. So we thought, if the children, if they can't go to school, can we bring school to their doorstep? Because education is the least priority for them, so they will not take that much of pain to go to school. And that is what exactly we did. We established an open school called Foot-pathshala, which is running at Footpath. And this is not just a school for these children, they take care of entire family. So this is an ecosystem. And the second thing we realized, that if we really want to make any change in the society, that we need to make the community participate in this. So these beneficiaries, the underprivileged beneficiaries, we started developing social leaders from within the community. And we started turning the beneficiaries into facilitator. So we thought, let them not think just that they are the victim. They should be victor. They should be empowered, and then they should take care of their community. And with their help, now we are running 44 centers, like you mentioned, across the country. Because we all are working professionals, it was not possible to scale up our initiative had not been these underprivileged beneficiaries become part of it. So, because personally, I feel that any person, whether us or the underprivileged person, in the pyramid of need, wherever he stands, there will be some set of people, they will be below them, and he can always offer help to them. So that we have utilized, that every person, whether it's underprivileged or privileged, they are there to help them out. So there is Upay. We are serving around 2.5 lakhs in beneficiaries so far. So thank you so much for having me. During the QA session, we will learn and interact more about Upay. Thank you, Ratan sir.
Thank you, Varun. What a wonderful story in terms of helping these kids, otherwise who would be spending their life in begging, and building a successful, scalable model, leveraging the energy of young volunteers from high school, from college, and then already showing paid forward in terms of many of these kids now becoming the teachers in these schools. Great story, Varun. Look forward to hearing more from you. Let me now take the opportunity to introduce our next panelist, Rajesh Soundararajan. Rajesh is the Executive Director of Katha, an innovative non-profit organization dedicated to enhancing education for underserved communities in India. With over 27 years of experience in leadership roles at technology giants such as Microsoft and IBM, as well as founding FutureShift, Rajesh brings a wealth of expertise in strategic innovation and technology-driven solutions to educational challenges. Since joining Katha as a volunteer CEO, spearheading 300 Million Citizens Challenge, an initiative aimed at bringing Katha's unique pedagogical approach to the remotest parts of India. This initiative harnesses technology and training to empower teachers and facilitators, reaching millions of children with quality education. Rajesh's leadership focuses on scalable solutions to eradicate educational poverty and prepare youth for future job markets, aligning with his vision of transforming education to create fair, fearless, and free opportunities for all. He has taken over as Executive Director of Katha recently, and we look forward to hearing about Katha from Rajesh. Rajesh, if you can help audience understand what is the main challenge Katha is trying to solve, and how does it work with the schools and kids? Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you, Ratan. That was a wonderful introduction. And I actually loved what the earlier speaker Upay is doing as well. Education is such a big thing. So let me just jump on about Katha. All this story started about in 1988, right? When our founder Geeta Dharmarajan was walking in the slums of Bhuvanpuri in Delhi. And in that process, these children are not reading, right? So we started writing small newsletters, Tamasha magazine for these children, right? And when you started giving these small newsletters, actually, these children still would not read. And then you go back and understand these people can't even read alphabet. So that is when we started, Katha started. How can we get this enthusiasm, childlike enthusiasm in the child to read? And that's how Katha started. We started writing stories for them and slowly integrating stories into the curriculum, right? That's what we do. And to just say the magnitude, you asked the question, why this? The magnitude of this challenge we have in this country today is 50% of India's children cannot read at grade level. Yes, that's 50%. 150 million children of the 300 million children cannot read at grade level. And this problem is huge, that we may not be able to achieve this grade level reading till 2084. So this is a huge challenge we are facing. So how do we get the child interested in reading? So great work on what Upay is doing. Our approach is about making everything storyfied, get stories to be the way to reach the child, right? So our vision is simple. We have one, we want every child to read well for fun and meaning, right? The second thing, like you said, about getting children out of poverty, we want every child to come out of spice poverty. What is spice? We are talking of social poverty, personal leadership, intellectual, cultural, and environmental poverty, right? And three, we want to build in India, we want to build a world of free, fair, and fearless children. So with these tenets, we do a lot of work in the publishing space. We write a lot of stories. Katha's books are very, very, very popular. That's one part. The second part, we actually have a child poverty action research. So we have school, Katha Lab School, Katha School for English language. We have school for entrepreneurship. So from pre-primary all the way till grade 12 and beyond, we have built a livelihood mechanism for the children, all integrating stories to their books, to their curriculum, to get them interested in reading. And then subsequently, we have children slum children of Puri, and we have about 1 crore children whom we have impacted. And a lot of them, in fact, there are IAS officers from our children. We have people in US Embassy working who are actually slum children who have grown and passed out. So this is the background we had from Katha. Right? So with 300 million citizen challenge, we did two things. We said this problem is so huge, it's not just Katha that is going to solve this problem, but many of you, many partners, grassroots partners, hundreds and thousands of them are going to do it together. And that's where we brought in our entire content, the pedagogical approach, took it on a technology platform. And today, we brought a very scalable model, which can go across, and we train the teachers. We build capacities for these grassroots organizations. Today, we have about 5,000 teachers who are facilitators, as we call them, across shelter homes, orphanages, nonprofits, blind schools. So across low budget schools, across the spectrum, who were trained to take story as a means to teach children or get children to learn in an exciting, in an imaginative, building critical thinking and curiosity. So that's what we do. So today, in 4 years, I think after 300 million citizens challenge launch, we scale this to 22 states. We have about 250 plus grassroots partners. So we work with them, we give them the lesson plans, we give them the book, we give them the content, activities. So the teacher is up and running, and we also train the teacher and support them all through. That's what we do. And you might ask, what does it all mean, right? So wherever we have done that, we see three things happening. Performance improves close to 80% compared to the control group, right? The attendance is spectacular, 90+%, better attendance. Children always come back to listen to stories. They sit through the whole day for stories. They learn maths, physics, science, English, language, EVS through stories. So children come back again and again. And finally, when they move from one grade to another, we call retention, performance, attention, retention. Even in MCD schools in Delhi and very well tested mechanisms, there is 90 plus better retention from Katha's children. So in a way, if you look at it, we got something that was working for 35, 30 years, brought the technology platform, and we're now able to scale it seamlessly and then reaching out to over 250 partners, 250,000 children. We already had impacted about 1 crore children in the past. So in a way, I think there is a huge problem. My only humble submission is just because we don't see it, 50% of children not reading at grade level is just not acceptable. Very much like what Foot-pathshalas is doing. Yes, a lot of those children are candidates and would be beneficiaries of this story-based methodology where they get to learn, love reading, and move on in life. And many of you in the audience, thank you so much. Many of you, about 200 of you are there in the audience. If there's any way, I think it's a challenge. We all need to come together. That is why 300 million citizens challenge. It's not Katha's challenge or 1 or 2 governments challenge. It is citizens challenge. Let's all come and work together. I'll take questions in Q&A. Thank you.
Thank you, Rajesh. What a work. And I think if I am reminded of very first conversation I had with Rajesh, how they are able to convert the kid who has lost interest in education to develop curiosity, critical thinking, and creativity. And they have touched 5,000 teachers. India has 9 million teachers. So you can see the runway which all of us can help achieve. Thank you, Rajesh. So let me now take it from, we heard about the kids on the footpath to the kids who are in the poorest communities and needs to be inspired to take the education, to benefit from the education, to now how Arvind from School in a Box is solving the problem for primary, middle, and to high school, and solving the problem for schools. Nearly 70% of schools are facing chronic understaffing, as well as inadequately trained teachers or poor quality of teachers. So let me introduce Arvind to share his School in a Box amazing story. Arvind is founder of Moini Foundation. His innovative School in a Box tackles one of the most pervasive problems. 70% of primary to high school are severely understaffed and undertrained teachers. Arvind, IIT Kharagpur batch of 1997, has worked in the global IT industry for 15 years before starting his journey in the social sector in 2012 with a strong desire to give back to society. After realizing that there's a severe gap in providing quality education, he then founded his not-for-profit Moini Foundation and started helping the district collectors and education officers in reviving existing computer labs in government schools through his School in a Box solution using several innovations like Quiz Academy and more than 15 augmentation modules for holistic education. Arvind has designed many award-winning scalable interventions in education. 2 of his tech-based initiatives got nominated for the PM Innovation Award in India. The School in a Box is both an online and offline e-learning platform benefiting rural, tribal, and underprivileged communities. His goal is to make a solution that is simple enough for any teacher and student to use for their day-to-day classroom earnings. Arvind, welcome. We would love to see if you can help with the audience how School in a Box can be a solution to these chronically under-resourced schools and fulfill the right to quality education, your mission. Welcome, Arvind.
Thank you very much, Ratan sir. I think I'm honored to be part of this group and this panel. And once again, I think a lot of things in terms of whatever trust you have been putting on the work which we have been doing. Coming back to, I think what, School in a Box is a solution. Yes, I certainly feel that School in a Box has actually been designed for these challenges. Because when we started somewhere around 2012, our focus was right to quality education. And one thing was very clear, that we knew that technology will be the enabler, because there were many, the challenges was not only just understaffing, but it was multifaceted. And if I look at those multifaceted challenges, it was not only multi-staffing, it was poor student engagement. It was lack of access to good kind of even books or the content. I could clearly see one of the failure which we were observing is because of the lack of accountability in our system. And that's where we realized that we should really work with the system enablers and enable them with the, the technology-driven platform where they also become accountable. The data is actually visible in terms of what is happening in the school. So that is where, when we started looking at it, it was a multifaceted challenges. And every time a challenge came, we tried to solve it with a very clear vision that, okay, there has to be something better than what is happening on the ground. Even though most of the cases, people were given up in terms of solving that, they have accepted this is how our system will be. And, somewhere around, I would say, 2013-14, when we were working very closely with the district collectors and reviving these labs, we first started with a very simple innovation, which is a quiz-based learning system. I would say, the whole idea was the content could be actually made more engaging, where you can, the classroom can become more a Q&A kind of thing with not just testing, but more of a learning environment, which is learning-oriented quizzing. If I remember my childhood also, I've seen like majority of our learning or initial fundamental maths has happened through what we call pahelis and puzzles in our, the families and local. So we actually combined that with that. And during this period, when we realized, while working with some of the district, we realized 85% of the schools were into so much of like, when we started in Udaipur as a first and then Jalawad, some of these are very tribal area and rural area. And we realized even if we want, we can't really enable them beyond a point. So we did a little bit of kind of effort of making things offline, like an offline app for learning those things. But then when we realized that we can really work on something where we can break down this barrier of internet and bring the best of the learning to them, which we wanted to bring in. So which means like when we learned a little bit from one of our tools, we realized there is a lot of good things on internet, like Wikipedia, like TED, like Arvind Gupta's work, like science simulation, University of Colorado. Whether you name it, the whole internet is full of good content, which has been easily available on the Creative Commons. So what we did is we started bundling it into a new package, which eventually in 5-6 years becomes something called School in a Box, where it not only enables the last mile delivery of to teachers and student of the content, which is very rich, very engaging. Even in the absence of teachers, kids can actually use it on their own because it's been from a software and hardware perspective. We just did small customization, but then to make sure that a child can even operate it, because that's where we realized that dependency on a teacher was also a very dangerous assumption. So this is how I think this whole School in a Box started, deriving it and making sure that everything which we are thinking, which reaches to the child. So the whole, the drive that a child should be, irrespective. There are like, if I just go back and see what is that which we were trying to see and break it down. So we saw that there were 3 key barriers in making sure a child gets the access to what best, maybe a child in some of the Western countries is getting it. And that was 1, the cost, 2nd was access, and 3rd was language. And the School in a Box became one of our enabler in terms of getting all the, the good content into this, which was globally and locally kind of, we kind of, curated from both the perspective. And post-COVID, I think, the local content access has become far more. Wherever we found we can convert things in the languages which we could convert, we started converting them. So that became a little richer from the local. And a lot of our, the ecosystem, which means we never wanted to do anything which is not monitorable, which is not accountable. So even if we do work with some of the schools which are in one of the remotest area of Chhattisgarh or Maharashtra, Gujarat, or Odisha, whatever is happening in those remote areas without internet, we are eventually able to get the data through a syncing app and see it on our dashboard. So always when we started, it was like the story, there are a lot of emotional aspect of the story, I think, Varun has covered, because we are all coming from this kind of background. But then one perspective which I at least brought in while working for 15 years in my corporate and the most of it in a IT industry is that if we don't operate in a very the corporatized way, or I would say a very systematic way, where we are actually tracking our effort, tracking our outcomes, making sure that the problem was solved in a very systematic way, and the whole data-driven decision making happens, we will not be able to really scale and achieve what we want to do. And in a way, with all the initiative which we were able to kind of so far put in, whether it is our the 100+ people who are working on ground, actually implementing things in these government school, these programs, what they do is driven by and backed by the technology. And School in a Box has been one of the most, I think, I would say the important advancement, at least we have been able to bring in. The journey is still started. I won't say that, there is something which is like completely solved, but at least it has really broken that barrier which we were facing. And sometimes, the small barrier is itself which makes the huge difference. So I would, that's pretty much, I would say, had been kind of, the fundamentals and reason behind how we have been making sure that in every way, right to quality education is put in. And then when we say like starting 2019, I just want to add that when we saw that, it is maturing, a lot of digital content is there, which is reaching to the children. And that's where our approach has always been a holistic. So we started adding the learning by doing modules, which is like a frugal, the kids, where kids, whatever video they are seeing on a computer, they should be able to at least try out and make some tinkering or DIY things. Even, I relate with story of Katha, because one of our innovation is a storytelling activity, which we combine with our, the School in a Box intervention activities, where kids are actually encouraged to make stories. So this is...
I will 30 more seconds, please.
Yes. So this is how I think, so story is quite big, but I think, around our journey, the technology, and in especially the offline e-learning ecosystem, which we are establishing using School in a Box, has been a very, very, satisfying. And I think since last 2-3 years, we have been now scaling it up beyond Moini Foundation. We have been able to help other organizations. We have been working with a lot of other organizations, at least 5 or 10 different, NGOs or CSRs, to really leverage this technology and take it and scale it. And that's probably something which we are also looking forward to see, that, this journey actually grows with the better collaborative partnerships in future. Thank you, sir, for giving me this platform.
Thank you, Arvind. And one of the other really amazing aspects of Arvind's work, not just the power of technology to bring this innovation like Quiz Academy, which becomes the forcing function for the kids to self-learn, but also how they bring together the kids in a classroom and have them debate the answers, or right answers or wrong answers. And that enables them to open up and develop the critical speaking skills. What a wonderful innovation, both technology and operational innovation, to create a solution which is able to overcome the handicap of understaffing of the teachers. So let me take the conversation now from middle school, high schools, to college and university youth, which have achieved, in many cases, quality education. But as we all know, from the corporate world, just having education is not good enough. If you're not prepared for the job market, you're going to struggle. And partly that might be the reason why we have, even in 2024, more than 30% of our IIT system graduates struggling to get good jobs. And this is a problem which you will hear from Kapish, how they have gone about solving. So let me introduce now Kapish Saraf. Kapish is the founder and CEO of KidX and Master Naukri, an experiential learning platform for school and college students, and partners with IITs, IIMs, NSDC, Niti Aayog. KidX has been awarded by Google, Mighty, and TIE. Kapish has been board of director and CEO of another innovative entity called Rivigo. Rivigo, not only a tech and AI startup, but also created Rivigo Freight Limited, an Uber-like marketplace for trucking services. Kapish grew that to more than 200 crores in monthly revenue and achieving the break-even point. Filed a patent in US for its AI engine, and then also worked for a number of years in BCG, Boston Consulting Group, as a project leader. Worked in healthcare and industrial goods practices across India, US, Europe, and Africa. Kapish is a young alumni achiever of 2023 at IIT Kharagpur. He did his MBA from IIM Calcutta in economics and finance, and has a dual degree, MTech and BTech, in biotechnology and biochemical engineering from IIT Kharagpur. What a varied background from health to education to AI, and now solving the youth problem, employment problem. So Kapish, question I have for you, help us understand how TEDx is solving one of the toughest challenges for the job market bound youth, developing the critical business and leadership skills which the employers are looking for, and how many youth it can benefit. Welcome, Kapish.
Thank you, Ratan sir. So, hello everyone. TEDx is a venture started by myself and my very dear friend Amritanshu. Both of us were batchmates at IIT Kharagpur, then IIM Calcutta. He is a BlackRock pedigree. So the two of us in 2020 over a session, an informal session, were discussing that since the time we were kids, there are some things which we have been listening continuously, that there is a disconnect between industry and academia, that India is a developing country and soon we will be a developed country, that India is actually not one country, but a combination of two. These days, people have made it three, but we used to say India and Bharat, right? The rich and the wannabes. So we said all of this problem is not getting solved despite the country doing well economically. We are now top 5 economy of the world, but GDP per capita wise, we are not even amongst the top 100 countries in the world. So what we need to do is fundamentally solve for how do we improve India's GDP per capita. That is the problem statement which echoed with us. And the answer there was, we need to make sure more and more people are employable. They are capable of getting jobs so that they can earn, and also they can get shot at better opportunities. They can get better paying jobs. So in that entire context, as we started critiquing things in a true MBA consultant, brainy kind of people, we started saying a lot of the things that we are doing in education is perhaps not directly linked to career opportunities for the average. I am an IITian. I am someone who went to an IIM. I have not applied the periodic table anywhere in my life till date. And during my class 8, 9, 10, it seemed like periodic table was the end of the world. If you do not know it well, you are not really a good student. So when we are thinking about employment, we started saying, let's actually think about what are the skills that an employer wants. The employer is not saying you have done a fantastic project in college, let me hire you. The employer is not saying you have completed a course in data sciences and AI or whatever, and that is why you can join my company and you will hit the ground running on day one. The employer is saying, I am looking at someone who can understand things. I am looking at someone who can look at things in a sequential manner, who can break a problem into simpler things. I'm looking at someone who can manage their time properly. I am looking at someone who can work in a team setup. A lot of these learnings are experiential learning. The sooner you start in life, the better your skills would be. It could be any kind of projects. As Arvind was saying, that there are certain interventions in the school in the box setup where you are saying, don't just listen to the videos. Do it yourself. When you start doing things, you realize things. When you realize things, your knowledge improves and you are able to go and do things first time right more often in life. So that became the entire genesis of the idea. How can we ensure we can create an experiential learning platform so that people can gain skills which an employer is willing to pay for. Today, if I look at colleges and universities in India, even after doing a master's, barring the top 20 colleges, perhaps every college is still giving jobs which are 25,000, 30,000 rupees per month in salary. And when I look at things from a corporate point of view, they are saying if the person fits the criteria for these 3 or 4 things, which has nothing to do with their educational qualifications, I am willing to pay at least 20, 25,000 rupees to that person and get that career started. So we said, let's build an experiential learning platform where people can gain skills. In that entire journey, as we moved forward, what we realized was this is not good enough. You can go and tell people that, you know, this is a good way you can build skills, jobs, you will be able to get jobs. But if the jobs are not coming their way, if that gratification is not happening, people will lose interest. Either you will end up becoming a social organization dependent upon funds, going and requesting funds from people, saying, I am doing some social work, support me. Or you can say, I need to become sustainable. I need to create a value proposition which at least some stakeholder is willing to pay for. So what we did was this entire concept of experiential learning, we did a vertical integration. We said, we will build a digital portfolio on top of it. So I, as an individual, whether I am someone from a rural area or an urban area or anywhere in India, I come onto a platform, I say, okay, I want to be job ready. So there are a bunch of 30 or 40 assignments saying you do any of these 5 or 10 assignments basis your preferred area of interest. One, you will develop the skill and we will use your assignments as a digital portfolio to showcase you in front of the company that this guy is a good guy. Why don't you hire this person? I am making hiring easy for a company by helping you find people who will clear the interview in just 1 or 2 rounds. From a company's point of view, the value proposition for them is we reduce the number of interviews you have to take. You come onto a portal, you fiddle around with certain filters, you look at video portfolio of individuals and decide these are the 3 people I want to interview. In our work so far, we have seen when we have made people from state universities or state colleges or deemed to be universities apply against top pedigree celebrated private colleges for entry-level jobs in operations, in sales. There is no such pattern that only the top colleges are getting the jobs, right? So digital portfolio is where you say jobs will come and find you. For the company, it is lesser interviews, get the best guy. And for an individual, it is my education and skilling is directly linked to employment opportunities. These initiatives we are driving with a bunch of organizations, IIT, IIM, NSDC, that gives us credibility as well to make sure that when we are scaling it up for the entire rural mass in India, we will have the support of all the possible corporates. That is the work we are doing. Happy to talk more about it during the Q&A session.
Thank you, Kapish. What a wonderful model to help the job market bound professionals and youth learn from actual experience of project-based problem solving and communicating, articulating the value proposition and so forth. So thank you, Kapish. With that, let me take the conversation to the next related important domain. As you all know, the economies all over the world are shifting to digital models. And for India to be developed economy by 2047, we have to bring our rural youth, more than 200 million, to the digital economy. That means we have to make it easy for them to be equipped with IT skills. When you look at the magnitude of the problem, more than 200 million youth, you cannot have enough number of coaching classes or coaches or funds to be able to achieve that. So our next speaker will share how we are solving that problem through the power of technology. Let me introduce Dr. Kannan Mugalia. Dr. Kannan is an Irash and Meheru Mehta Advanced Education Technology Chair, Professor IIT Bombay. He has a PhD in chemical engineering and a Master of Electrical Engineering degree from the Rice University, BTech in chemical engineering from IIT Madras. Professor Kannan has been a visiting professor at University of Alberta during 2003 and 4. He has written multiple textbooks and several papers in international journals and conferences. He works in the areas of control, simulation, and modeling, and now devoting his time to enabling India's several hundred million youth with IT skills so they can be successful in the new world of digital economy. His innovation of spoken tutorial is one of the most profound platform technologies that enables millions of learners learn any new skill, no matter where they live, at almost zero marginal cost and speed that is hard to imagine. He believes it is possible to provide high quality education to all our children through a combination of education and information and communication technologies, making India a developed country in the process. Kannan has held the post of Associate Dean and Head of Application Software Cell at Center for Distance Learning and Engineering Education Program at IIT Bombay. Professor Kannan, would love to see if you can help our audience understand what inspired you to develop spoken tutorials and what is so unique about it. Professor Kannan.
Thank you, Ratan. Happy to be here. We started this project in the year 2009 as for MHRD, Ministry of Human Resource Development, to improve the employment potential of our children, starting with college students. And when we say college students, MHRD was interested in all the colleges, not just IITs, especially interested in tier 3, tier 4 colleges, for example. These students don't go to good schools, good colleges. They may not even have good teachers. So how do you improve their employment potential? So we said that, how do we impart this for somebody who may not even have good teachers? So it should be accessible to them directly. So we said that, can at least the motivated students learn by themselves? In other words, can we make this instructional material suitable for self-learning? So we came up with an idea which we got from the movie industry. Every movie has a script, so every tutorial of ours also has a script, except that we asked a beginner to certify that they can understand the script before we convert it into a video. And we decided our tutorials to be 10-minute long duration. And we also didn't show the video of the person talking. That's why we called it spoken tutorial. When I went to IIT Madras to do my BTech, my English was extremely bad. I had great difficulty in communicating with people because I studied in a Tamil medium all my school. So for people like me, I said, can we dub the spoken part in all Indian languages? In fact, we have dubbed in all 22 languages. We have a large number of tutorials available, for example, in spoken Sanskrit. We also made it usable offline, which became extremely useful during the COVID times. And then we said that IT has to be taught. We said we will use only open source software. So a spoken tutorial is a 10-minute long audio video tutorial created for self-learning, usable offline, dubbed into our local languages, and they teach open source software. Then what we came up with a method called side-by-side learning. Student has to listen to it one instruction at a time and reproduce it, completes the whole thing, and the video is completed. Now, in fact, we found that the self-confidence of the students went up enormously because they said, nobody taught me, I did it myself, I'm capable of learning. The moment the student gets this idea that he is capable or she is capable, then they can do fantastic. There is no, because you have almost everything on the internet, for example, nowadays. So most people lack is the self-confidence. So we have come up with, we have created about 1,500 tutorials, spoken tutorials, 10-minute duration each. Including dubbing, we have about 15,000 tutorials. we have trained 8 million students, that is 80 lakh students in the last 10 years. We train about 8 lakh students every year. Till 2020, MHRD funded it. Now we collect a small institutional subscription to stay in business. One of the things that we did lately was the job fair for students who do well in our online tests. Because many students, many colleges, tier 3, tier 4 colleges don't have campus placement. It's a serious problem for them, for the students. For them to land the first job is exceedingly difficult. Similarly, for small companies belonging to MSME, there is a major problem. So in fact, we conducted a job fair, and as expected, these students did exceedingly well. Their motivational level was very high, which is something the companies wanted. In fact, we expected only MSME to come, but even large companies like Tech Mahindra joined. In 2016-17, we also made this available, extended this idea to health and nutrition, the nutrition of the newborns and their mothers. Okay, because I thought that IT training was the tip of the iceberg. Almost any skill can be taught using this. And we created more than 100 spoken tutorials that is led by Dr. Rupal Dalal, who is a pediatrician and a nutritionist, and then very passionate about this. She had worked in Mumbai slums. So we used the domain know-how from her, but used our platform to make this available. So the newborns, or the weight gain of the newborns, are 3 to 4 times. For example, in Nandurbar, average weight gain used to be 12 grams a day for the newborns. Using our method, when mothers were trained, the babies are gaining 35 to 40 grams, even 50 grams, as reported by the IAS officer, Assistant Collector, Ms. Meenal Karanwal. So now we are actually conducting state level, Madhya Pradesh state level training for Asha and Anganwadi workers. And this is funded by RISK Foundation through Wheels Global. So I'll stop here. I can go on talking. Faculty members are used to talking for 1 hour. I have to control myself. If there are any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Kannan. I think I'm probably one of the biggest fan of this truly simple, classic platform technology. And it is already evident, not only helping the youth learn IT skills, and I'm talking about hundreds of millions of IT the youth can learn in India as well as globally. In fact, we are taking the program. We have done the few pilots in countries like Zimbabwe and Nigeria, and then applying to the health domain, where we are rolling out a statewide program to tackle 10 million mothers and babies benefiting from better breastfeeding techniques as well as end-to-end nutrition management. So now we are going to switch into Q&A, and I would encourage all the audience to submit as many questions as possible. We will try to take most of your questions. If we have to extend by 10-15 minutes, we will do that. So with that, I will have a first question. I think one of the guests had asked Varun, the Upay model is highly noble. But you face a situation, these parents need every hand to get the food on the table. How are you able to overcome the resistance from the parents and let these kids attend the schools? And I would request each question to be no more than 2 minutes so we can take as many questions as possible. Varun, go ahead.
Yes, so I think the question is quite valid, and this is the major challenge we face when we work with these street children. So like I said, that the school is not just for the children. We take care of the entire family, and education is the least priority for them. So we act as a family with them. So it takes around 1.5 years to penetrate with that community. So we take ownership of their problems, extend medical support to them. Sometimes they have a lot of problems with the authorities. So there our volunteers go and help them. So I think almost 8 months to 1.5 year is the time which takes to develop a rapport with the parents, because they are the main stakeholders, and we try to engage with them more than the children. We engage with the parents. So that is the thing we are trying to do, to so that they can allow their children to send to our school. But yes, it's a quite challenging thing to do at present.
And I think one of the things I noticed, and hopefully the audience saw the slide, how they have created an electronic marketplace for many of these mothers to generate extra income from things they are producing. And that is another way. If they can increase their income, then the pressure on the kids to be kept at home gets reduced. Thank you, Varun. And I think there was one of the question about whether each of our 5 innovations are non-profit or for-profit. I know Upay is non-profit, but as I ask the questions, others can acknowledge whether they are for-profit or non-profit. And I think we have a question hand raised from Ambassador Kapoor. So I do want to acknowledge, besides our 5 innovators, many of Wheels volunteer leaders who are dedicating their time and driving Wheels Global Foundation forward have also joined me in today's panel, including Ambassador Kapoor, who will be, I will request his question. Suresh Shinoy, who is Vice Chairman. We have Dr. Rasha, who leads our Health Council with about 80 other doctors. Sujata Roy, who is our President of Wheels Global India. Kishan Goyanka, who is chairing our India North chapter in Delhi. And also Indrajit Chatterjee, who is convener of our chapter teams. And then also our young alumni leader, Praveen Kumar, based in Delhi, who is giving tremendous time for marketing activities. So Ambassador Kapoor, please go ahead with your question.
Thank you very much, Ratan, and thank you to you and your team, including the others in Wheels, for organizing this very, very, brilliantly conceived webinar, which is one of the best webinars on education that I have seen. And you're talking from almost birth, maternal times, neonatal times, on to the primary education, on to the middle school, high school, college, jobs, linking up all of it in a very holistic manner. And how do you continue the conversation between all the various stakeholders, even just present on the screen here, like Upay, Katha, School in a Box, Master Naukri, KidX, and spoken tutorial. So how do we create a platform for them to also work together at scale? One possibility which I can offer is that we do something in some rural area, very backward area like Aravali, where Wheels is already engaged, where spoken tutorial is already doing a lot of work. Thanks to Professor Kannan Maudgalia, we are training in Shamlaji College and now extending to the rural community so that they become empowered. They have their skilling, they have their training, not only in the IT skills or health skills, but there's a very significant population there of nurses, nursing students, and who are also interested in maths and language and IT. So those training programs are going very well. It is benefiting the students of the college very massively, which is the most tribal area of Gujarat on the border of Rajasthan. But we are now going to be extending it through kiosks. We set up the digital learning lab inside the college, and we're going to go out to the community also and bring the community into the college also. But I would be very happy to foster the platform for bringing together all these stakeholders who are here, who are doing such great work in different parts of India and the world, to even come together in a place like Aravali and take it forward so that then we can spread to the whole of Gujarat and to wherever else there is a demand for some of these solutions to work together to impact that massive scale. Thank you very much. And back to you.
No, thank you. And I think Ambassador Kapoor pointed out one important aspect. The reason we brought these 5 innovative solutions is to really show that the problem we face, we have nearly 260 million kids enrolled in schools in India. And a large majority of that is in rural India, underserved communities. And without the application of technology and innovation, we cannot overcome these challenges. But also, it's very important for us to have variety of these innovations, presenting multiple solutions, because the problems in education domain are so vast. It's if you want to make a list, you can easily make a list of 50 problems. So we need all the variety of innovations, and that's what Wheels is embarking on, discovering these wonderful models, bringing them to Wheels platform, so we can help them scale. We can help them achieve their full scaling ramp in the shortest time possible. So that is what I hope our audience will walk away today. Let me take some more questions. One of the question has come up about question to Rajesh. Are we creating stories in the local language or dialect to establish better connection, to make it easy for kids to learn in the native environment?
Yeah, wonderful question. Thank you. It's a wonderful question. In fact, Katha is a story, the way we started off and we continue to have that core is translating stories and transforming lives, right? So it's not just the stories alone. The essence of the story needs to get captured in the translation. So we have stories in 10 languages, 10 Indian languages right now, today, right? And this will continue to grow. And the stories are sourced from the local sources. We have stories from Manipur, we have stories from Koli tribes. So we have a cultural integration from where the stories come in, and we actually dissipate those stories in English, Hindi, and 8 other languages, right? So yes, dialects, yes, there is an attempt. Chhattisgarhi, some of the stories in the voice format, we tried with some of them, and we will continue to innovate in that area. But yes, we have stories in 10 languages in India.
Thank you. Thank you, Rajesh. So we have a question for Arvind. Arvind, your platform seems to be depending upon network connectivity. Is there a offline mode possible? And also, is it addressing the needs and challenges for just the middle school, or does it extend all the way to the secondary school?
Thank you for that question. First of all, let me clarify the whole, the solutions, the DNA is making everything offline. So the school in a box actually works without any dependency on the internet connectivity. It basically hosts whatever required content on its own, creates a local hotspot which any other device can connect. And that depends on, where we are actually deploying it. So even there are places where there are no internet, no connectivity, even there are no computers. So even with in a group learning with one TV, which can, simply be a monitor to a small computer or low-end computer, can actually be a very, very enabling thing. So number one, that is one thing. And I don't know what was the second question, but I think
the second question was, does the solution extend all the way to the secondary schools in terms of solving the problem of the chronic understaffing and learning?
Yes. So when we started with actually secondary schools itself. We primarily cover up to class 10 in a more structured way, but a lot of things are very open-ended, so it can cover 2 classes beyond that. So we started with 9th and 10th when we started our initiative around 10 years back. Then it moved towards 8th, which is like covering 8th, 6th, and 7th, which is the middle school. And as of now, today, we have been actually covering ECC content, which is mapping to the pre-primary content itself. So starting from a pre-primary to primary to up to the whole secondary schools, we have been covering. And the whole concept is, it's not a the static, I would say, the solution. Every time, based on the requirement, based on the region, based on the language, we curate what is right for the audience. So even if there is a solution which has to go to a primary school, it will be actually curated that way. Or if it is secondary school, it will be curated in a different way. So it does take care of all these things. And these were the key requirements around which we actually created this whole solution.
Thank you. I think there was a similar question from actually one of the Wheels leaders, Dr. Rasha, who was asking whether the areas where you don't have internet connectivity, this solution is available. And I think you do, because of your offline setup in terms of the local server and router and Wi-Fi hotspot. So thank you, Arvind. Let me take another question from our audience. Mohan Jain had asked, how do you promote citizenship values? Or if I can extend that, in terms of the respect for culture, our heritage, being a good citizen, the life values. And I think many of you do that. I can see Varun's solution, which is really about bringing from the day one to Arvind. You have multiple modules. If I remember, your 15 modules, and so besides some of the specific modules, Mohan, we have another 5 solutions which we will be hopefully bringing up in the next webinar. One of them is value-based education integration into the curriculum. And in fact, the Katha model of storytelling is also integrating a lot of those cultural aspects and value and respect for holistic personality development and the kids to grow up as a respect on the citizen and having the respect for the culture and the society. I don't know whether any of you want to add that to that further, Rajesh or Varun or Arvind.
Absolutely. Yes. Everything we do in Katha, ultimately, as I said, it is about building citizenship and making them free, fair, and fearless citizens or individuals in themselves. So we have me skills, we have me plus skills, and we skills. So about the whole thing about the community and citizenship comes under that. So this automatically is ingrained into every book, every story, and pedagogical approach. Yes, I think it's extremely important. Very good question. I think ultimately we are making these children responsible citizens of the world.
And Katha is also non-profit, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yes, Katha is a non-profit. Yes.
Okay. And just to answer to Ron's question, I think Moini Foundation is non-profit. It also has a for-profit entity to deal with many of the requirements in terms of when they work with the CSRs or when they work with the district collectors or the district education officers. And KidX, I think it's a for-profit structure, right? With also a non-profit arm. So hopefully that answers Ron's question. And so let me take another question. The question from Lakshadweep, I think it gets to the previous question, but it's worth taking up. The biggest problem in India is that the children do not go to school, and those who attend are often not proficient in reading and writing. How correct is it to teach those children who are not at all competent in reading and writing? And I think let me invite Arvind to take this question first, because I think, and then Upay, Varun, I think both of you are dealing with that squarely, and maybe Katha also later on.
So I think it's a very valid question, especially a very prevalent kind of challenge we have been facing it, because I think the biggest challenge even the government also facing is making sure the kids reach to the schools in an effective way, not just coming for the meal or just for the sake of attendance. So here I would say the kids who are at least reaching to the schools and low engaged, and this was one of the problem we identified, that there was a very poor engagement. So if I would have been that kid, this is how we thought. If I would have been that kid, probably I would have also not been very interested in this education. And the whole model, when we started working, all the innovation which we see, they're all basically a byproduct of the overall methodology which we leverage. That is, build a more engaging environment where it's not about just the skills of reading and writing, but it's about the building the skills which helps him become a better, the one is citizen part is, I think that's a little more bigger word, but I would say it starts with becoming a self-engaged, creating a gamified learning and, the practice environment. So those kind of small initiatives, when I said we work with ECC also, so in last 2 years, my closer intervention in ECC has actually been primarily focusing on this, that not only students who are going or reaching, the maybe partially or sometimes, or, in a very low energy, learning environment, but even in a very decent environment, the learning outcomes have been very, very poor. And that's where creating simple tools, simple engagement, model, which does not really depend on what we give. It basically enables them. So if a child, like I was talking about learning by doing thing, which I think, Apish also, emphasized on, the whole idea is not to teach them every time to do by some, but also give them that vocabulary where they learn, okay, yes, I can learn and engage and play by doing things. And that is something which we are trying to bring it little lower and lower. I know it's a challenging, well, there's no right answer to it right now, but if we acknowledge the problem and we continue to do our best with the most sincerity, I think there is some progress we should be able to achieve in this.
No, I think the question about the barriers in terms of the kids simply being able to leave their home and come to the class, that is a real barrier. And many entities are tackling that by also providing free nutritional meals. We work with the two foundations, Annapurna Foundation as well as Akshay Patra, which are doing nearly, now Annapurna is doing 10 million meals a day. And that is one way to lower that barrier of not having the food and the kids coming to the school. But once they come to the school, I mean, all of us have seen evidence. Varun has the story on his website about these kids coming from Footpaths and now aspiring to go to the IITs. We have another entity we support, Ekara, which works in textile slums in Kolkata, some of the poorest kids. And they are now becoming doctors and coming back to contribute to Ekara schools. We have party example where the kids will not be allowed by the tribal parents to leave. And now they are becoming highly educated nurses. So the talent is absolutely there. It is a question of how do we take systematic approach to lower the barrier so they can have a chance to get quality education. I think we have Rajesh and Kapish raising their hands. So let me ask Kapish to provide his comments, and then I'll come to Rajesh.
I just wanted to clarify. So we are a for-profit. We have not made any profit till date, but we are a for-profit. We do not have any non-profit arm or foundation. We genuinely believe that even if we are doing, good social work, it has to be sustainable. So at least we do not have any intention even to register any non-profit arm. We work with certain CSR foundations and NGOs. We execute project on their behalf at record low cost to make sure that they can deliver impact. But just wanted to clarify, we are for profit, we are not a not-profit.
Thank you, Kapish. And Rajesh, you have a comment?
Yes, actually, the question is absolutely spot on. How are we ensuring, if I were to rephrase reading and writing, how are we ensuring this children, right? And extremely important, and that is why all Upay and Moini are doing one way. At Katha, what we do is we engage. That's how we started. Get children engaged with stories. Children love stories, right? In the process of stories and beautiful illustrations, those books that they touch and feel or see on the devices, they do not know when they're reading. They do not know they start. We have a LSSRW framework. I'll come to that. But children subconsciously learn reading. They can read 20 words, 40 words, 60 words, 100, 600 words. So that's one. In a way, our activities, what we do is think, ask, discuss, act, and achieve. It's called active story-based learning. There is a framework that we have, and because of which in some of those activities that children do, they end up writing, they write stories. So the LSSRW framework is listen, speak, storytell, read, and write. 5 things, right? You might see why storytell is at the center is because it combines listening, it combines speaking. When story write also is there, in fact, as the third S is storytell and story write. So that is how storytelling and writing helps them get engaged with the character and learn reading and writing. Very important question. And that is the first thing we also observed way back, that children need to love what they're doing, love those books to even read. They need to have some sort of a story to learn reading and writing. Absolutely spot on.
Thank you. And I think there were a couple of questions which are getting to another aspect, and we'll take these 2 questions and then we may have to wrap up. So there's a question from Anand said, the impact measurement in any activity is so critical. So that way you know whether your approach is working, it is producing the results. And particularly when you're working with the government institutions, the evidence-based approach is so important to fully utilize the government resources, public resources. And I know many of you are focusing on your own way of measuring those impacts. Maybe I can, Arvind, I think raise his hand to provide a comment, but also Arvind, if you can cover, I know you have very extensive analytics in your system, how that analytics is helping you also work with the government effectively.
So absolutely. The first of all, the question itself is a very valid point that every system should have this accountability. That's what I was mentioning also. And this has been one of the challenge in the the social sector ecosystem, that we do not kind of cross the barriers. So one of the observation from the question is that many a time we have our own systems through which we are monitoring it. I can just share one of my experience when we were working with district collectors. We eventually ended up scaling with 10 to 12 different districts in Rajasthan itself. They were working. What we did is we had a 3-year program. We used to call it a project Utkarsh. There is now new variations of it. First year was basically enabling and empowering the whole, the reviving the labs and everything. But we were starting with the class 9. Second year, the class 9 student was reaching in class 10. And then apart from our internal, the reporting system, which was, how many quizzes are played, what is the benchmarking, what is the, the improvement, those things are anyway reported to the district collector on a weekly basis. But one of our own benchmark was that after 2 years, when 10th board result comes across the state, the thousands of students, we will take it and we will create a benchmarking out of it. So for us and for the collector, the most important testimony was what was the change which we see school to school in terms of the level of, the percentage of pass. So we have seen the schools where percentage of pass was less than 50% was actually now crossing 70%. And we actually not did it for 1 year just for the sake of it. We actually did it for 4 to 5 years by observing that whether the school is sustaining it or not. So there have been, always you will see a data, but that data actually gives you a lot of good insight in terms of what seems to be going in the right track and where you need to work more. And not every school will show the same kind of scenario, but the data when you have in your hand will be very empowering. Another quick example is when we created a small dashboard of all the schools which were using this quiz academy, even before the school in a box, the automatically data was getting synchronized, and we were synchronizing in a way that, a school level, you can see it. So whenever a district is visiting and we give a link to a district collector, he can open anytime. So whenever he's in a block, he's visiting schools or he's visiting a block meeting where the teachers or principals are coming, he was able to question people or, this thinking why your school is not performing better than this schools. If there was a data which is coming from a tribal area schools, the automatically a city level school was, the put to a question. And this particular thing over the period, because we had a 3-month review meet within the collector's kind of office with most of the nodal officer, we have seen the change in terms of awareness of how things can be done in terms of, a stick and carrot combination, which was created because of this, the data-driven accountability. So the summation of this is one of the most important thing. And even when we are working in an offline ecosystem, one of the most important part is that I should get that data, because without that data, it will be dead. I saw one question which was talking about, can you give it in the pen drive and hard disk? And we have realized if you cannot monitor what is happening on the ground, I think scalability and the sustainability is not possible. That's what we
Thank you, Arvind. And I think one of the angle of the question was really, how do you really work with the public resources, whether state government, whether district government, whether central government. Mm-hmm. And in all the domains, we have been focusing in wheels, education, water, health, livelihood. Mm-hmm. Leverage of the public infrastructure is absolutely critical, but it has to be with the right model. And what we have demonstrated in our 3 large state level programs with the Himachal Pradesh underground spring rejuvenation to newborn malnutrition eradication in the entire state of Madhya Pradesh to Parkhi's model working with the state of Jharkhand, that you absolutely can work with the state government. What you need to demonstrate in the phase 1 or pilot is successful business model, successful operating model, where you can mash public resources and private innovation, and then hand off to the government to scale it at a much larger footprint. So there is a way to do that, and it is, I would say, almost impossible to scale at a very large number without that effective partnership.
Absolutely.
We'll be happy to share more details in our follow-on webinars, or anyone needs more information on our website. So let me request final two comments. I think we have Professor Kannan raising hand, and then I will go to Rajesh, and then we will wrap up.
So I wanted to comment. Yeah, I wanted to comment on the, how to judge the impact of somebody's work. It turned out to be actually quite a difficult thing for us in the spoken tutorial, because we said that this is for jobs. And then we relied on the training and placement of colleges to give the data. So not many of them were willing to say that it is because of spoken tutorial, their employment opportunities went up. Because then, after all, what is their role? What is the role of higher education? What is the role of giving a degree if they don't get a job? So if spoken tutorial is required, then what are they doing? So that is one of the problems that came up. It was in fact a difficult thing. But the job fair conclusively has shown that it is, spoken tutorial, those who do well in spoken tutorial get jobs, and we have to actually scale it up. So that is probably the way out. Regarding working with the government officials, we took the stand in our health training that we will not set up a parallel structure, that we will work with the district administration. For example, collector, CEO, assistant collector, and so on. And we did that for 5 or 6 districts. And it became actually very helpful when we went to Madhya Pradesh, because the district collectors from the previous districts actually came and talked about their experience and how health spoken tutorial is helping them. I think that is the way to do. I agree with what Ratan mentioned, that we should work with the administration, not try to duplicate. Thank you.
Thank you. It was amazing to see 2 months back when we had our bi-monthly review with the state of MP. We had nearly 83 IAS officers on the Zoom call, and that is, I think, the biggest proof I can offer in terms of the genuine interest of these district CEOs to work on these tough problems. We just have to look at them as a partner and then come up with the right operating model. So with that, let me ask Rajesh for the final comment, and we will then start wrapping up.
Absolutely. I'll take the second question first, Ratan. I so much echo with what Dr. Kannan and yourself said. We work with the government as a partner. We are not going to duplicate their efforts. We need to be an extension. And from there, I will segue into what we do. So we have something called a school quality enhancement program. So at the end of it, we work with the government. We build, operate, transfer the entire methodology to the school. And the first part of the question is, how are we showing we are having impact? So all governments, doesn't matter when we work with the collector in Tilvalur or in Delhi government, it doesn't matter. Ultimately, when we work with the government school, there are 3 things, very simple things we brought on. Of course, we have different assessment models also, but I'll bring down to the 3 things. PAR, PAR, performance, attention, attendance, and retention. So when you go into government schools, all they're saying is, when you do a baseline, midline, endline, is the child reading from 20 words to X words, whatever it is, right? I mean, whatever be the number, they're seeing significant jump in your methodology changing the child compared to vis-a-vis where you're not doing well. So obviously the government is convinced that what you're doing is working. So performance is absolutely important. If your model of engaging the child, triggering the imagination and showing the outcome is there, the government will stand up and take notice, because that is in their domain as well. That's what they want to do. The second thing the schools look for is attendance, right? Government schools, at the end of it, there is a high dropout rate. Sometimes there are 5 children in a class of 30, sometimes 10 children in the class of 30. So because we do storytelling in many or story-based integration into the curriculum, stories as a center, we have children coming in at 80, 90%, 95% attendance. Even in migrant situations, we have children coming to school every day in those government schools. So that's a proof enough. At the end of it, if attendance is consistent, it's a proof enough that something is working. And third, when they move from one grade to another, which is retention, PAR, right? So the PAR is retention is, do children move from grade 4 to grade 5, grade 5 to grade 6, or grade 3 to grade 4? If they continue their education, that is another proof where there is impact happening. That, at least that's what we have worked with wherever we're working with, be it a Tamil Nadu or a Delhi or Haryana government, that's what we work with. Probably that should be the simplistic three metrics which can help. Thank you.
And I think, other critical challenge in education domain is that when you are investing in a kid in the first grade or second grade or fourth grade, when we try to measure the financial return on that investment, you're talking about a time lag of 15 years, 20 years. And that is not an easy thing to do in terms of maintaining an interaction with that kid, where you started supporting in the elementary school or middle school, and then maintaining that interaction so that you have visibility to the impact on their life in terms of the economic return. And the entities which has done that successfully are able to maximize their paid forward. So it is something which is necessary, but it is not easy because the time lag is so huge in case of education. So let me, I think Dr. Rasha had 5 minutes ago, so I'm going to request one final question or comment from him. As you can see, education and health also go together. In fact, we talked about our MP project, which is all about education in the domain of health. And after this webinar, we will be hosting webinar on other topics. Most likely the health innovations will be the next webinar session we'll do. And after that, we'll be following up on other topics in Wheels portfolio, energy, water, livelihood, and sustainability. So with that, let me request Dr. Raj to quickly share his comment or question. JVG, Dr. Raj on unmute.
Yes, he is. You can talk, Dr. Raj.
Okay, maybe let's move forward. So with that, I would like to thank our panelists who made time today to share their wonderful innovations. And hopefully the audience heard not only their passion, their ingenuity in creating highly scalable models which are replicable. These models, you already heard the numbers, our spoken tutorial program already being taken to 8 million learners. Arvind talked about more than 2,000 schools. Rajesh talked about 1 crore kids and 5,000 teachers. Kapish has talked about multiple IIMs and IITs and even the employers benefiting from these. But still, I would say these are drop in the bucket. And we need all of these innovations, a lot more of these innovations to come together and come on a platform which can enable them to be replicated in all the corners of the country. And that is what Wheels is aspiring to do. And I'm hoping that all the audience who attended, they will see an opportunity to be part of that journey of replication, to be part of that journey of scale. Because in Wheels today, we have about 200 senior leaders who are giving their time. But we are an alumni organization of 500,000. And along with alumni, we have many other mission-aligned professionals. Dr. Rasha is a prime example. We have 80 doctors. We have many retired IAS officers and foreign service officers. If we can have all that large community of 500,000 be involved with the same passion, you can imagine how fast we can move the needle. So I hope all of you will feel inspired to support these innovations and help us scale, bring more innovations to our attention. The easiest way to involve, I think this was the first question from one of the audience, how people can be involved with the volunteer opportunities. That is very easy. On the Wheels page, we have one of the menu items, getting involved. And you will see there multiple ways you can be involved. You can give an hour of your time. You can give financial support. You can mentor. You can help us come up with the operating and business models which will help these innovations scale. All these innovations like product innovations, they need your support to come up with the operating model. They need your support to come up with the public-private partnerships. They need your support in coming up with the distribution and marketing innovations to help them scale. All of that expertise will be critical. So we all have so much to offer, and I hope you all will join us in our journey to impact at least 20% of India's rural population by 2030. What you heard from the 5 panelists is just a small subset. We have probably at least 1,000 of our alumni building wonderful, powerful, innovative models. And I hope we will be able to spotlight them. We will help them scale both individually as well as together. So with that, I would like to thanks everybody, and I look forward to your participation in our collective effort. And thanks again for taking time, particularly the audience in the, I think many of you joining on Saturday morning is a good sacrifice of your time. So I see that you are all motivated, and I look forward to working with you and hearing back from you. We were not able to cover all the questions, so we will try to answer many of these questions on our website. The recording will be available, so you will be able to hear that any portion which you missed or you would like to forward. So thank you very much and have a great day. And thanks to the panelists and everybody for joining today.
Thank you. Thank you, JVG, Nitesh, Dr. Raj, Dr. Kannan, and co-panelists Arvind, Varun, Kapesh, and Ratan, of course. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks everyone.
Thank you and congratulations. Very successful, very outstanding.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. About the panelists, if I may say, you have come up with amazing model and reaching out, but how do you actually reach those rural communities and poor people who don't have cell phone or internet connected device or access to any of these, and then try to reach them? Because then you have to be in-person model, and in-person model is not easy to scale. Of course, ECL has done in education, where there are 100,000 plus rural schools, and they employ teachers and educate those rural students. But that's a very resource rich thing. They have to raise money every year, and it becomes very difficult. So in healthcare arena, if all of you can sort of give a short view, how are you reaching those students?
So I think, given the interest of time, since we announced the closure of the webinar, I will just
I thought we are close. I'm just asking as of webinar discussion.
Okay. If anybody with the panelists are willing to stay, I would welcome their responses.
So I think I would love to answer that particular question.
Sure.
So first of all, I think this is one of the challenges over the period we have been actually thrown on. And in many ways, we have tried to solve it. So one of them is basically making sure technology reaches, but there are a few other examples. And I think you rightly mentioned one of the model, which is ECL, is very inspiring model. So similarly, I think in one scenario, what we have done is we have created a learning on van, small van, where we have this whole rich vocabulary of the offline e-learning system. There are 10 laptops with a charging system, a TV inside that, the small Maruti Eco van. And, the one van actually covers the whole year, 20 schools. We have 2 such, which has been doing it. So that is one simple example. There's another example where we work with a CSR, which is actually into the national highway constructions. So what happens for them is their labor continuously keep moving from one location to another. So they are actually there for maybe, and these are in the very remote areas, and where there is no living populations, or even if there is living population, which is very small, and villages, they don't have good infrastructure for education. So what we did is even if we create a school there, after 2 years, we have to move it, because the whole population will move to a new place. So what we did is we actually created a whole classroom in a container that which can be actually hosted on this thing. So the container, the classroom is created the same, the fully advanced, and the rich learning environment. It actually gets installed in one of the locations, and then so the whole plan is, because it's not 2 years yet, but the whole plan is you can, as it is, lift it and take it to the another website, another the site of this the construction. So this is one. I'll come to one of my favorite example where I don't know how to bring that student which is not even coming to the schools, but there are a lot of grounded organizations which are working. So I work with at least 20, 30 different state, the deeper areas where tribal areas where many small trusts are actually running schools with very limited resources. So in that cases, there are no internet, there are no mobile phone, there are no computers. So what we do, we work with one of the organization, which is wheel, I would say it's a Roundtable India and, the Rotary, some of these things. So what we do is we take this whole e-learning ecosystem where there is a digital to some of the learning by doing, including the story making activities. There is a whole intervention for the whole year. We actually set it up over there in those schools. And when we set it up, we just put a TV. And there is a one person from our team which is continuously works with the teacher there. So the whole year there is a curriculum in which we connect with the teacher twice in a month minimum. And the whole idea is to actually help him do two kind of activities. One, he's comfortable doing it today, and another, he will become comfortable by next month. And slowly, we build that capacity in which he becomes a smarter teacher. He learns how to leverage the ecosystem which is given. So I think that's something which, I'm very proud of, how in last 2 years that program has come up, where we have been actually not going again to those schools, but then we are able to really enrich the learning environment and the feedback when it comes in terms of videos or photographs or, the data which we have been monitoring is very, very, this thing, something which is really very lightweight and scalable to scenarios like ACL schools, and which is what we are also trying with Global Wheel right now.
Thank you, Varun.
So another
Dr. Raj, I think we have to wrap up. I'm sorry. Because we have people dropping, and maybe if you have a quick question, we can ask, but otherwise, I think we should wrap up.
No, I was just going to say that the platform that we have created where we give an internet connected device for telehealth system in all villages, some of these programs, you guys can work with us to bring it to the students and the village people. We are with Professor Kannan, we are bringing spoken tutorials. We are bringing mental health apps. So fields donate this thing, and we plan to expand this nationally. So you can partner with us to bring the specific educational program which are easy to be put on the as an app on that device and bring it to the end user. That was my point to ask this question to all of you.
Yeah, no, I think the health education, and once we have the point and devices available, then a lot of information, whether about health or education, can have the distribution channels for the end beneficiaries. So something I think we can continue to explore with each of our education innovations as well as other innovations. So with that, let me officially close the webinar and appreciate everybody's time today. Thanks, everybody.
Okay.
Thank
Varun,
you.
you have a wonderful model.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.